Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, back here with Jeff. Been a while. We want to do a 2020 market recap, but also an outlook on 2021. Seeing a lot of investing questions. We're here at the end of the year, crazy year, COVID, massive dip, then rocking markets, backed by stimulus and a bunch of other things. Really the touch on the big points. You've got 6 times as many trades happening than there was last year. Not volume, of course, but that means a lot of new people getting into the markets. You had sports, of course, lockdown, a lot of other things, people moving into, investing. But Jeff, I want to throw it to you. Do you want to recap this crazy year from investing? And then, of course, we'll do, 2021 outlook, things you're looking at, things to avoid, and we'll do a bunch of things like that.
Hey, Jason, good to see you, buddy. You summed it up so well. I mean, the year started off with the COVID stuff, and we had the massive drop, which at that point we, alerted our subscribers that, when something like this dips like it has and has a big drop, this is when you want to be in there and buying them, and in particular, buying the good ones. Had you stuck to that, and it's something that we've seen happen for, decades upon decades upon decades, buy when the fear is out there. And when the fear and the panic and people are, friends of mine telling me, oh my God, I sold everything and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, oh, what a great opportunity this is.
I'm going
and
to
it
need
has
cash
been,
to buy toilet paper for the next 3 years.
Yeah. True. So it's been a great year in terms of seeing so many of the big cap names come back, roar back, and the returns have been massive. I mean, just massive. So it's been, from that standpoint, it's been good. Now the question is, what like you alluded to is, what has caused it to go up? And listen, at some point you got to pay the piper, and stimulus continues. A bill just yesterday again. Imagine passing or trying to get a bill passed, 6,000 pages long, and you hand it to somebody and say, you got 2 hours to vote on this. It's like, what is wrong with these people in government? It's so pathetic. But anyway, the stimulus bill and another stimulus bill, and like, there's just been so much money printed, and who's going to pay for all that at some point? And, you've got coming in up, looking at 2021, you've got Biden coming in. So you've got definitely a different form of government coming in, and higher taxes and stuff like that is definitely going to happen. And, I think maybe in Q1, as people kind of sit back and reflect on all of it and say, well, wow, we've got 4 more years of kind of this type of new way of reimagining the stock market, or reimagining, this, that, or whatever it may be, that it is quite a left-wing policy that will be, or set of policies that will be thrown into the economy. And that's just not good for the market. Higher taxes and stuff. And so I think as we sit back and kind of collect our thoughts after Biden gets in, and we sit back and really say to ourselves, okay, we've had a hell of a party and it's been a great run, but what is the reality now of the economy and everything under a Biden government? That's the big question.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is the market will go down because of that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, to touch on a few points, just like what we've seen, right? And you've got some people saying, well, is this good? Because they look at, well, Trump is crazy in terms of his Twitter, and what he would say was crazy. But then they say, well, you got the Republicans keeping a lot of power. So will all these crazy tax hikes and all these other things happen with them keeping power? Maybe it's a balance. Who knows? The stimulus, of course, pushing things up. You got, surprising for a pandemic, you got all these tech companies and a lot of others recording record high profits, record high revenues. So, really, to me, and, I talk about the economy a lot, and especially about the Canadian economy. you've got the Canadian economy, in my opinion, roaring, even though the general consensus is, oh, these businesses are struggling. You've got people working from home, you've got businesses reporting record productivity. I'm curious if that's also what you're hearing in some of your discussions.
I am, and I'm just not a believer. As strange as it sounds, I'm looking around at the world and saying to myself, for instance, being based here in Cape Town,
Yeah.
and I look at the rand. The rand is now at a 10-month high. Now, granted, the US buck has had a difficult time recently, and it probably will continue to have a difficult time as there's just so much more printed money out there. But here is the rand at a 10-month high. And I can tell you the economy of South Africa is not in good shape. In fact, it's in really bad shape. So, there to me is the perfect ultimate short. The only reason, the rand is at the high is you've got foreign money coming in to buy due to a higher interest rate that you can get here. You can get 7, 8, 9% on some bonds here, which obviously you can't get anywhere else. But the reason you're getting that is because the risk is so large. Is default a big potential here? And quite frankly, if it was me running the government, I'd default on so much stuff here. I would absolutely crater stuff, because that is the only way to truly reset South Africa for great growth in the future. So all the companies that are in big trouble, the electrical companies, the gas companies, and transportation companies, I'd bankrupt them all and start from scratch and sell equity to the public, much like Air Canada, has done about 65 times, and Bombardier and all the rest of these companies that the Canadian government has bailed out 300, 400 times each. But I would just, bankrupt them all and get the economy in a place where it can actually build a balance sheet that will be successful, set it up for future success. But the way it's running now, it's just not going to work. And so I just see that there are so many short-term band-aids that are out there. And this whole, I don't know, this not whole, but half of the optimism in the US about, build back better and whatever it may be. And people are optimistic that things are going to get better.
Perfect kind of question for you, little needles as we go. And we're talking, of course, right before we hit record. There was a bunch of surveys that went out, and you look across the internet, some of hundreds of thousands, millions of votes. Where do you think the market's going in 2021? You got a little bit above 50 in most cases saying, oh, it's going to be a rocking 2021. And then you've got the rest saying, I think at least a comeback of these all-time highs is coming, at least a reset, or worse. Where do you fit? Which way? It seems like you're thinking we're going to see an economic reset here in some ways. Maybe not a complete pullback, huge dump, but at least reality check.
100%. So I see a reality check. Overall themes, I see the social networks. I see them taking a big dump. Facebook, Twitter, and the rest. I think people are fed up with Facebook, including myself. I've been on there since day one. I loved Facebook. Now I'm just frustrated with it. I look at the things that go on, and if I make a post on my Facebook wall, why is the default going to a lock screen where I'm the only guy that sees it? It's like, I didn't tell you to do that, Facebook. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've got to go press the button that says, allow the public to see it. Then they send me a message. Hey, Jeff, I see you looked at socks on Instagram. Do you want to buy some socks? It's like, get out of my life, dude. Like, I just want to post a picture so my friends can see it. And it's becoming very frustrating to deal with Facebook. Twitter, personally, I had my account suspended 4 weeks ago. A bunch of our accounts, corporate accounts, were all suspended. That is beyond frustrating. So I'm having to deal with them at the moment. And I'm just sick and tired of these social networks telling us what they think we can post and not post. And I'm tired of it. And I think that I think that a lot of people are tired of that, and I think Facebook
Well,
and
really, this is stemming from a lot of, I mean, how much censorship even happened during the elections. You saw a lot of people saying, look, even though maybe we agree that what he said wasn't correct, should we be policing it this much? And I think that's, obviously the point you're trying to make for sure.
yeah,
And a lot of people agree with you.
yeah, and so so that's been frustrating. So I see that whole, and I'm not just saying it from a personal point of view. It's from what I hear from so many. So many are saying, you know what, I'm done with Twitter. I'm done with Facebook. I'm out of here. And what about the Trump effect on Twitter? When Trump leaves, is Twitter as big as it was? No way. There were other platforms out there like Parler, and Parler is being labeled the conservative Twitter. Well, maybe so, but maybe other people will start joining that as well because they don't censor. So, interesting things. But anyway, overall, I see that whole kind of social thing taking a dump. I see cybersecurity doing extremely well in 2021. I
Why?
see them just, huh?
Why? Just because people working from home, or what's
I
what's
think
the
that people are finally starting to take the sector seriously in terms of being able to understand it better and being able to, or taking the effort to understand the importance of security. So, and we're all learning that through Facebook and Twitter, et cetera, which is these guys have all the information on us you can ever imagine and then some. And is that really where you want to be in your life? And I think people will start to look at different options to be able to, you know, uh, close up those kind of loopholes that are out there. I mean, even Zoom, which we're on now, Zoom, all the software is made in China. And now there are some investigations underway to figure out, are the Chinese actually listening to all the conversations held on Zoom? And I can tell you that, well, I can't tell you for a fact, but would I bet on that? 150%. Would I bet the reason, Salesforce bought Slack was so that they could do the exact same thing? 500%. You don't think that Salesforce is interested in seeing what every company that uses Slack and what they're doing with the information flow within those companies? 150%. Even though, they're going to tell you that's not what they're doing. Just like Facebook always said, yeah, no, we don't do that. Twitter, yeah, we don't do that. Well, we're now finding out that that is what they do. And that is why Salesforce bought Slack. So they can now have an eye on every corporation that's invested their time into Slack and are using it. And that is scary.
Crazy. No, I mean, hey, I remember when people thought, yeah, the government didn't, listen to your phone calls or track your messages, and then that happened. It's just been this domino effect, and it's scary that we're getting to the point where a lot of the younger generation is kind of like, okay, whatever. But it is scary, and I agree. A lot of those platforms went from things that even I use all the time to now I haven't logged on Facebook in 2 years probably, and it's just
Wow.
been that flooded. And of course some other places, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this can imagine, Facebook was this titan, and of course they bought Instagram, and that's where a lot of people went to. But Instagram is becoming that same type of thing, flooded with a lot of stuff and awkward. So interesting that that's a space you're looking to avoid.